said, I am Rajal. I'll go into a little bit more detail about myself in just a second. But today's webinar is talking about client account management, show me the value. We'll go into a little bit more detail. Mark will go into more detail as to why we've chosen this topic today and why we think it's important to put out messaging about account managers and what we do. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself to begin with. Bear with me a second. Well, there we go. That's a picture of myself. I'm Rajal Prajapat. I have been with Anicca Digital for 9 years now. I started off as a client services manager. I'm currently now head of client services. So I've been with the organisation for 12 years and I've worked in the digital landscape in the sales and account management industry as well for many years. So I've gained a lot of experience there. My role with Anicca at the moment, I am responsible for the management of the existing clients, but also responsible for the overall direction and the processes within the client account management department. So I work alongside Mark in terms of managing our current clients and supporting them for all of their needs that they have. And hopefully by the end of this presentation, you'll have a better idea of exactly what that is. I'm just going to hand over to Mark to tell you a little bit about himself.
Hello, everyone. So, yes, you can see I joined Anicca nearly 3 years ago. I wear a number of hats here, as well as doing a fair bit of client account management work, which is my main role. I also oversee our tender submissions and manage those when we win them, etc. And I'm also involved in a fair bit of content writing as well with that team. So certainly a jack of all trades, or some trades anyway. My experience goes across public and private sector, from very small SMEs to multinationals. I've been in marketing almost 30 years, which is far too long, but I love it. And as you can imagine, I've covered a number of roles over that time. Event management for sort of like 14, 15 years stands out. And in client account management, I've been doing that for nearly 5 years now, although to varying degrees. Sort of previously, for example, in event management, you had an element of that. So yeah, and apologies for the picture. I realised that I look like some guy who's just about, on his last day from leaving prison or something like that. But anyway, we'll move on.
Thank you, Mark. I wanted to go into a little bit of an introduction about Anicca for those people who haven't joined our webinars before. You may not have come across Anicca before, but hopefully, you'll know a little bit more about us after this talk. So we were established in 2007 by our current CEO, who is Anne Stanley, who normally hosts the webinar. She's unable to join today, but we're a multi-award winning agency and we're based in Frog Island in Leicester. We have 23 staff at the moment and we represent over 40 clients, and we offer a range of different services, which includes PPC, paid social, search engine optimization. We support with creative design. We do some PR support, analytics, and also we have our own training department as well. So we provide training in each of those different service areas, and also do some work with the DMI as well to provide overall marketing training. So yeah, if you need more information about us, take a look at our website and hopefully you'll find what you need there. But if not, always give us a shout. We'd be happy to help. We pride ourselves in putting out the message that you are in safe hands. We work with many different brands who trust in our experience, and we have industry awards across the board to prove that. We are partners with a lot of the media representations as well. So Meta Business Partner, we are also a Google Premier Partner, and we are winners of the UK Paid Media Awards as well. And you can see that there, this is our largest paid media agency award here. And then following that, we also gained 3 other awards. So we really do pride ourselves in achieving these awards and the clients that we work with as well. So we have experience in working with a range of different clients and different companies. So our understanding of digital marketing sets us really apart from a lot of the other agencies because of the range of different clients that we have. So we work with Uber, Eon, Palex, Experian, NHS, which are some of the larger organisations that you might recognise by brand, Dykeman Shoes as well. So, we hope that with that experience, we're able to put out a very varied service in terms of the experience that we have in the industry from there. That's a little bit about Anicca, but if you have any questions about us, about the services that we provide, let us know, get in touch. We'll be more than happy to help. going to hand over to Mark. I'll tell you a little bit about the overview of what we're doing today.
Lovely, thank you. So don't want to read off the screen, etc., but just an agenda for what we're going to go through. So just so you're not having to play ping pong with us, Rajal will be taking essentially the first half of the presentation. I'll take the second half. So she'll be covering what a client account manager is, what to expect from your CAM, how your CAM actually operates, and the information that we look to share with people, and that's a two-way sharing process. I'll then take over for a bit of behind the scenes, project life cycle, looking at that and how we manage it. We'll then touch on some project management tools, which I'm sure people have had various experiences of, and we're not here to pitch anything like that. We'll just give you some explanation of how we use it. And then hints and tips of stuff that we have learned along the way. We learn stuff every day, but we want to share the stuff. And then Rajal will finish off with the summary and conclusion.
Lovely, thank you. Just an introduction on why we're going into this topic today.
Yeah, so one of the things that we have found when talking to clients over the years is there's various perceptions and understandings of what the role of the client account manager is. So as I've put there, it's often unclear. People wonder what they're paying for. It might be misunderstood. Or even, seen a bit cynically, partly because of, perhaps bad experiences in the past or something. So we're looking to provide some clarification today. So we see the role of the CAM, as I said there, as a producer of a film or a TV show. They're the ones that bring everything and everyone together in the right way, right time, right place to make sure it all happens. I've put in our definition of the CAM, which I will read verbatim because I think it covers pretty much everything. So you're the client's primary point of contact through whom discussions are initiated, arrangements are made, and issues are resolved. They're responsible for a project's management, guidance, and resolution to a mutually satisfactory conclusion. Ultimately, they're responsible for being the voice of the client within the agency and the ambassador for the agency with the client. Two key things there is the fact that we do deliberately have a foot in both camps. So we are, as I said, that liaison in more ways than one. But we also, the wording in there is quite specific. So, for example, we put in the primary contact, not the sole contact. So we never want to be a bottleneck for anything. We shouldn't be just the messenger. We are not the lady from the 1950s footage of putting the telephone exchange wires together. We need to know what's going on, but we are not the sole source of all contact. So, as I always say to all my clients, we need to be the oil in the machine and not the spanner in the works. That's the philosophy that we work to, that we make things happen. So that's what we're going to. That's the underlying foundation of everything we're looking at today.
It's a great analogy, Mark. Oil in the machine, not a spanner in the works. I'm going to keep that one in mind. So I wanted to move on to talk a little bit about what is your client account manager and what should you expect from them. And this just touches very slightly on the introduction that Mark has just explained there as well. And I think he did that fantastically well in terms of the value that we add, the part that we play as well. So just following on from that, we are a representative of the business. And in most cases, you will find that it is the person that you speak with most often. When I first joined Anicca, there was no client services department. The agency was significantly smaller. We've grown, tenfold since the 9 years that I've joined. And one of the reasons that I was brought into the organization was because we have excellent technical staff. But what we found was that these technical staff were more comfortable sitting behind a computer and delivering work. And a lot of the time they miss that opportunity to communicate back with clients or keep on top of deliveries or even what the overall expectations of the project was. So I was brought in to fill that gap. And as time has gone on, we've grown the client services department. And as we've had more and more clients have benefited from the service that we have. So we really do fill that gap. And as Mark said, we have a foot in both camps. Although that we are supporting the technical team in their delivery work, we're working directly with the client and are that number one point of contact to make sure that they have a comfortable go-to person. should they need any feedback, should they need to air any questions, concerns, queries, or should they need any additional support. Here at Anicca, we call ourselves a client account manager. It can be termed different things. So you could be just generally the account manager, you could be a project manager, project coordinator, client services. There's many different terms for the role that we play. And I think as you work across different industries and different organizations, you'll come across a representative of the company that isn't necessarily responsible for the day-to-day running of the account, but plays a part in making sure that everybody stays on track with what the project is, stays within budget, in target, and sometimes, cracks the whip behind the scenes and make sure everybody stays in line and delivers as needs be. But that's essentially what we're doing. And I just wanted to raise that because you might be working with someone who is a client account manager, but they might be termed a different title. So there's different names that, or different job titles, shall I say, that we can go by as well. In terms of what to expect from your client account manager, there are many different parts to our day, and I'll go into those in just a second. But in terms of what to expect from them is, first and foremost, is highly communication. You want to be able to contact your client account manager as often as that you would need to. And that is communication between from the account manager to the client and from the account manager to the team as well. So it's regular contact for any purpose. It might be to talk about strategy, it might be to talk about budgets, just regular updates, and it's crucial project discussions as well. In terms of project planning as well, our responsibility is to oversee the overall delivery of the project. So based on the services that you've signed up for, you want to make sure that your client account manager is coordinating those services internally. And that's between the teams on the project and also through different platforms as well. And we'll go into a discussion about platforms towards the end. You want to also make sure that your client manager is delivering on the agreed terms of the project as well. So whatever the KPIs are, they're delivering to the time schedule that you're working on as well. So prioritizing tasks, managing internal team meetings, they're ensuring the requirements are met to deadline as well. What you want to make sure your account manager is also able to support you with is problem solving and resolution solving as well. So addressing any concerns that you have related to any element of the project. It also includes general customer service support as well. So, we expect to hear from you should you have any questions whatsoever about the work that we're doing, any areas that that you're happy with, we're always happy to hear about, also areas that you might not be so content with as well. When it comes to problem solving as well, we're here to provide guidance and advice on your general marketing as well. So any support or problem solving resolution support that we can provide to you, we're here for as well. We'd hope that your account manager will also put forward ideas and innovations as well. So we would navigate the team to produce ideas and adjust strategy to the project that you're working on. We know the strategy can sometimes need to be developed as your project develops as well. So we want to make sure that that strategy is adjusted as time goes on. So hopefully your account manager is coming forward to you with some ideas as well. Yeah, and just touching on my final point there, just coming forward with general interest in your marketing and contributing to the wider marketing plans of your organisation where possible as well for the different services that you have. So hopefully these are areas that you are seeing support from your current account manager or your current client manager. I mean, if not, there's always opportunity for you to start conversations around these topics to ensure that you're touching on them throughout your relationship. I wanted to touch a little bit on how your CAM operates. There is a big taboo around what are you doing all day? So we have account managers and you might not hear from us every single day, but you're thinking, what is it that you're doing? And I thought the best way to put that forward would be to explain what is the day in the life of an account manager. So we start off by kicking the day off, and there's a few routine tasks that I know I stick to at the beginning of the day, just to get myself in order, and from that really does dictate what the rest of the day looks like. So ultimately, it's about being prepared, being organized for everything ahead of the day. No 2 days in account management, from my experience, have ever been the same. So first and foremost, what I like to do is I like to start by checking my emails, sometimes at the crack of dawn, just to see what I'm in for the day ahead. Also, what I like to do is also focus on prioritizing any urgent tasks. And these are things that are imperative, that have deadlines, and I need to ensure that they're progressing. So put timelines and a task list ahead to ensure that we're meeting the deliverables on any urgent tasks. What I then move forward to doing is communicating with the internal team on any upcoming projects that we're working on and any client requirements that are currently outstanding. So put in place timelines with the delivery team for the completion of those projects, to make sure that we can either try and hit those on that day. If there are any delays or if we have an expected deadline in mind, then filter that back to the client. And that would also fall in line with reviewing any time-sensitive project plans and milestones as well. Whether that be KPIs, website launches is always a key part of what we work with as well. So ensuring that our delivery team is communicating with the client team on any website launches as well. A key part of starting off the day as well is checking and updating project management tools. And we use these, and you might use different project management tools to track progress and ensure tasks are on schedule. So a couple of tools that we use CMAP internally. If you haven't heard of that, it's an activity tracker, should I call it. We use Trello, we use ClickUp. Some of the team internally use Monday as well. But ultimately, we use these project management tools to keep on track of the work that we're doing, keep on track of activity that's being completed, and make sure that we follow up on any deadlines as well. What we also do is coordinate with stakeholders. That might be the client, that might be senior management. It's ultimately about communicating any updates to the internal team and with the client if required as well. So all of these tasks are completed at the beginning of the day to set us up with working out what needs to be delivered that day, and essentially putting a priority list together of the work that we need to do moving forward. But yeah, I hope that gives you a good idea of how we start the day. And that's before we get into the nitty-gritty of what the daily activities are. So I've broken these down into a few key elements. There's a lot that entails the day, but I've broken these down into a few key elements. We'll start with communication. But ultimately, what we want to do is explain is that the ongoing tasks for an account manager, they do differ heavily from day to day. But we want to ensure that there is the smooth running of your project. There's consistent communication between all parties to ensure that the project deliverables are met. And that's what we do. But there's a lot that goes behind the scenes of that happening. So communication is key, and I've touched on that already multiple times. I'm sure Mark will as well. But we go on to collaborating with other team members, providing guidance and support as and when needed. A big part of our day, and more times than not, I'm speaking with clients 2 or 3 times a day, sometimes not the same client, but we're having client meetings multiple times throughout the day. And the topic of these client meetings differ. No 2 client meetings are the same. We're doing renewal meetings. We're working on internal proposal meetings. We might be working on business development meetings as well. We're having conversations about budgets, about KPIs, about objectives. There might be ad hoc communication. These are outside of the standard meetings that have already been scheduled as well. Not only are we having these meetings, but we're responsible for the setup and the coordination of the meeting. So that's liaising with all the parties that are going to be part of that meeting, finding suitable time slots, setting up suitable resources, whether that be scheduling online meetings, putting in place in-person meetings as well. And when the meetings actually take place, a big part of our role is not only completing notes and taking actions for those meetings, but following up on those actions. So we provide regular performance updates as well internally, and that would be for senior management and other members of the team working on the project as well. So yeah, communication is key to make sure that every party is up to date with the work that's being completed. In terms of delivery and task management, ultimately, that's what that is the lifeline to the service that we provide. So our role is there to ensure that your project is delivered as we initially promised when you first signed up with us. And to make sure that happens, we need to ensure that there is consistent monitoring of deadlines and budgets. We want to ensure that we're on track with timelines and that you have the resources that you need, or the internal staff have the resources that we need to complete those tasks as well. So we spend time monitoring and updating the project tools as mentioned before. And that's to keep on track of the progress of certain tasks, and also to inform the wider team where we are in terms of progress with these tasks as well. So there's always senior management who want to check in, and the different ways that we do that, rather than them contacting us directly, is by using the project management tools. We use these tools to also monitor budgets and make adjustments on those as well. So ultimately, we work with different departments. We focus on what deadlines are taking place. We use the project management tools, and we use different documentation to keep an eye on what's happening with those projects as well. So that's just a little bit about the part that we play in terms of project management. Objectives and strategy. I've touched on objectives and strategy briefly there, but we would need to review these to ensure that we're still on track to deliver the KPIs that were initially agreed. At times, we need to revisit the agreed KPIs to make sure that they're still relevant. We know that your business changes from the time that when you initially signed up, and the KPIs aren't always relevant as the project progresses. So we would have various meetings, touch points to see how the economy is impacting the initial KPIs, the way that your business is working. It can also impact the products and the services that you're selling as well, which essentially in turn will influence the marketing budgets that you have in place. So we work with the delivery team to ensure that we're on top of what's happening here. We also work as well with internal strategists. So here at Anicca, we have a team of strategists who sit above the delivery team, below the client services team, and we work with them to have separate conversations about the work that's being done based on particular objectives, and work out really, is that still relevant? Are there additional services that a client could be utilizing to enhance their marketing capabilities? Is there a new objective that's come in place that needs to be met? And what strategy do we need to put in place to ensure that we're delivering on that new KPI or on that new objective that's been put forward to us by a client? So that's another relationship that we manage internally as well. I've also gone on there to talk about troubleshoot and customer service, and I mentioned that before as well. So it doesn't happen very often, but sometimes, clients cannot always be content with what is being delivered. So unfortunately, we have to deal with complaints and concerns that are coming through, and we try to do that as efficiently as possible. Ultimately, when we have these complaints and concerns that are coming through, the bottom line is we want to find a suitable resolution. And that's where we come into play mainly. The tech staff aren't always in the ideal position to deal with feedback and negative feedback. Sometimes that might be, and that's where we come into play to work as the intermediary between the client and the technical staff to find suitable resolutions. Also, a part of our role, it's not the key part of our role, but it's also to support with sales and business development. So that might be helping the sales team with new client projects that we have coming forward. So representing the client services team in sales meetings, but it also might be looking at current clients to find out gaps in the service that they have. So we prepare proposals, presentations, and look at renewal contracts as well. So yeah, putting together renewal meetings and presenting those renewal meetings is a consistent part of our role as well. So yesterday, I think 70% of my day was spent on one client, preparing for a renewal meeting, delivering on that renewal meeting, and then reporting back with a list of actions following that renewal meeting as well. So yeah, there's a range of different elements to our role and the day that we put together. So hopefully that gives you an idea, if you are a current client, about what it is that we're doing in the background on the day-to-day. And there's a lot more to that, but I wanted to really hone it down to a few things here. From here, I wanted to go on to information to share. And when we say information to share, sharing information is a two-way thing. So we want to give you information, but also what we want to do is make sure that we have the right information from you to be able to do our jobs correctly. A couple of things that I wanted to touch on there is we know how the changing environment can impact your business. So if there are any client concerns around your project, one thing that I would say is always raise those with your account manager. The relationship that you have with your account manager should be one that you should be comfortable to go forward with any questions, any queries, and any concerns. And one of the main reasons that is if you have that open line of communication, that comfortable communication, ultimately it's going to make sure that you're delivering on what your bottom line is. So yeah, it's not always a great conversation, but do go forward to your account manager with any questions, queries, concerns that you might have. We need to know what your overall project expectations are. You sign up to your project, we promise to deliver, but if there are a change in what your expectations are, we want to make sure that we are reflecting your campaigns and the service that we provide to meet those expectations. That might be KPIs, it might be general targets, it might be the return, the profitability that you're getting out of your investment, and the return on ad spend, ROAS, I've just put there as well for those people that work in the PPC area. We need to know how your internal strategies are adjusting, or what your internal strategies are. I have two different ranges of clients. I work with businesses who don't have a bottom line strategy and they're working on a day-to-day basis just to deliver a return. But then I have clients who have a 12-month, 18-month strategy, and it is key that we keep on top of exactly what that is. We also need to know about any changes in the business, what's growing, what's developing, any changes that are happening in your personnel as well. How is the market impacting your business? Is it impacting the price of your products? Is it impacting the service that you're providing? Is it impacting the personnel and resource that you have internally? We would prefer if you'd be forthcoming, but what we like to do is have regular touch points with our clients throughout the year to talk about each of these different things as well. It's also useful for us to know what resource you have internally as well. Do you have access to developers that can put up new pages on your website to support your SEO? Do you have access to designers that can also create ad copy for us at the drop of a hat? Are you using any internal plugin software for your website that we could use for paid social or Google Ads? It's useful for us to know what you have access to as well. One thing a lot of our clients we ask at the beginning of our relationship for is a calendar, a sales calendar, should we say. So when are your product launches? When are your promotions? When is the peak time of year that you're selling your products as well? And that way we can plan ahead with the strategists and with the account management team to ensure that we're putting together marketing plans and promotion plans based on those sales periods. So this isn't the full list of everything that we would request from you. And, you know, we might have ad hoc questions, but ultimately it's very, very useful for us to know these things. And if these things, if there are any clients on here that are working with account managers, if these things are things that you haven't shared with your account manager, set up a call with them, use this as a basic agenda list to share this information with them and see how that you can use that to develop on the work that you're doing. I hope that helps. But if you have any more information, have any more questions about information to share or a day in the life of, do let me know. I hope that's been useful. I'm going to hand over to Mark now, who'll tell you a little bit about behind the scenes. I've touched it on a little bit a day on the day of the life off, but Mark will touch a bit on behind the scenes. There you go.
Lovely, thank you. And you'll keep running through the slide. Thank you. Great.
Yeah, just let me know.
Talking, listening, writing, can't do it all at the same time. Thank you. So, as Rajal said, she's presented perhaps the ideal world of how things work. I'm going to just go over sort of a little bit of the flip side of the same coin, really. this is not unique to our lives. And I think one of our attendees today is a sole trader. I saw, was it Mike? So I'm sure you're all familiar, but Mike probably especially being a sole trader with all of this kind of stuff happening. But here's this kind of stuff that goes on. I think it's one other thing I wanted to mention is that it's important to know that all of our activity is done under the umbrella of a service level agreement with every client. So in terms of our response times, what you can expect from us, what you can expect from you. So there are, if you like, always deadlines, response times, etc., in the back of our minds as to getting back to people, what's acceptable, what's not, etc. But for example, we will be dealing with notifications from those project management tools, obviously plenty of emails coming in, phone calls, whether they're arranged or not. So they might just, as I've put in, impromptu calls. Then, of course, there's Teams, which is very useful, but can also be a burden at times if everybody's trying to ping you at the same time. Someone is always bound to want a last-minute report. I mentioned I have other roles, so those will sometimes intervene or even conflict. So, yeah, there's time management there as well. Plenty of miscellaneous interruptions, especially with everyone working from home. I know that the kettle is a temptation, and sometimes I have to get that washing on. But also things like, making time for a coffee or a screen break, which is actually quite important. I think we can all relate to the fact that, just those 5-10 minutes away from the screen and actually away from things, and then you come back with that slightly fresher approach. Mm-hmm. Micro decisions that we're making the whole time. What's important, what's urgent, what's both, or what's neither. How am I ranking this? If I get something in from Anne as the CEO, it goes pretty close to the top of the priority list, but she will perfectly be happy with me turning around and say, yeah, I'm just on some client stuff at the moment. So there's always those sort of mini negotiations going on. Another thing is that something is always going to get missed, and hopefully only a small thing, not vital, etc. But no one's perfect, so don't beat yourself up over that. And we try not to as well. But we always just make the point of, okay, what do we learn from it, etc. Was it something that was missed on the project management tool? Is it a one-off, etc., etc. So the real world is never the same as the ideal plan. But that, I'm sure, as I say, everyone can relate to in terms of stuff that is always going on. So anyway, next one, Rajal.
Yeah.
So the project life cycle. Now this is not my own creation, I should add, and there are many variations of it around, but this is a slightly cynical view of projects. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this in terms of either experiencing all of these or some, or even just one during a project. But we're all familiar with the fact that if something starts off and everybody is wildly enthusiastic about it, then you'll enter a plateau phase where disillusionment can creep in. All of a sudden, somebody realizes it's July and not June, or the other way around, and panic sets in. Then search for the guilty, which I can relate to. Punishment of the innocent, reward of the uninvolved, and the creation of the legend. I'm sure everybody's had that experience of, oh, you should have been here when such and such happened. But I raised these for, actually, there's a serious point here, which is, this is the kind of stuff that not only can disrupt a project, throw it off track, or even wreck it, but there can be longer term implications from this kind of stuff. There are, if you have something that goes wrong and it's not resolved properly, you can have resentment that will sit and fester for quite some time. So this is why I've titled this "What We Aim to Avoid." This is a good guideline as to, actually, these are the things that can go wrong, have implications for many months, even years. So do your best to steer clear of all of these. So how do we? Next slide, Roger.
Yeah, 1 second.
There we go. So how do we avoid this? So I should point out, these are not all counterpoints to the stuff that you've just seen on the previous slide. These are just our underlying philosophy, etc. So we are always transparent with our objectives and outcomes. And as Rajal was mentioning, in terms of information that we look to have the client share with us, for example, if you've got your own business strategy or marketing strategy, etc., we need to make sure that we dovetail with that as much as possible. We are explicit in who is owning a task and who is also a member of a task. So it's not just who is running it, it's everybody that's working on that task, whether it's one person or 6 or 12 or whatever it might be. We set out the clear deadlines, but we build in the right amount of flexibility. So if there's a hard deadline, that's set, of course, but if there is something that has got some flexibility, we make sure people understand that. We monitor and check in with people. That's on a formal and informal basis. Just that occasional message to someone, how are things? You all right? You're feeling stressed, etc. All that informal stuff is part of the glue that keeps a team working together well and brings a project home. The communication needs to be consistent, and by that I mean both regular and same style throughout, etc. And that applies to both internal and external communications. It's all part of the trust building. We work to structured processes. Rajal mentioned, for example, taking call notes and supplying recordings of those calls. We work to agendas, and we make sure that tools are updated with new tasks, completed tasks, etc. We create an environment for ideas. This is so important, that an idea can come from anyone at any time. Now, sometimes it's at 3 a.m. and you haven't got a notepad to hand and you hope you remember it 5 hours later. But you must have that environment where people can throw those ideas, because every project is going to hit problems and those solutions can come from anyone, anywhere. You must recognize people's effort. It's a key part of bonding. If people do not feel appreciated, they are not going to buy into your project now or for the future. And also make sure you have a clear finishing point. It's the old painting analogy of, if you're painting a masterpiece or whatever it might be, it's knowing when to actually stop fiddling, stop making the final tweaks, set that. And that might be based on the KPIs, it might be a date, it might be a specified outcome, or even a finished product, but make sure you know what the finished article is going to look like. So those again are underlying processes, etc., that we work to. Next one.
Lovely. Bear with me, I think there's a slight delay. There we go.
So I'm aware of the time slipping by, so I'm not going to go through every single part of these, but so please do download the handout and you can catch up with everything. But this is how we structure everything from start to finish of a project. And when we talk about project, that might be a short-term one for 2-3 months, medium 6 months, long-term 1 year, 2 years, whatever it might be. But we will become involved at the moment the contract is signed. Occasionally we might be involved in a pitch or a proposal, depending on the nature of the client. We will then attend internal briefings, which is internal kickoff call, and the external kickoff call, which is obviously the get to know you, run through of the order confirmation, make sure people know who's working on what, etc. We'll set up the project management tools. We will usually show our reporting, which is one of our USPs that we will show to people, the detail of our reports, the breadth of them, the accuracy of them, etc. So that people know what they're going to be expecting as the project progresses. We hold internal meetings. We distribute project plans. We make sure that everyone has got everyone's email addresses, phone numbers where appropriate. And another one that's actually quite useful, especially at this time of year, is knowing when people are going to be on holiday, both internally and externally. That's just really useful information to have, to know that response time will change, etc. We then oversee reporting calls, which are usually on a monthly basis. We oversee the ongoing comms I mentioned earlier. CC us into information. We don't need to be the transmitter of all and receiver of all. There are those monthly iterative process, such as a delivery of reports, setting up those calls that we will do monthly, perhaps fortnightly if required. Rajal mentioned, additional services. If there's people in the past have had agencies let them down, they want to add something to the contract, we will happily have that discussion and get the right people involved on our side. And then ultimately, we get to the end of that contract and we will oversee the renewal, getting the team together, reviewing everything that has gone on and looking at where things can improve for hopefully the following year, etc. So that's a quick run through of our overall project life cycle, but I say that can be a year or 2 years sometimes. So, Okay, next one.
Yeah.
So just briefly on the project management tools. This is, so we are not here to pitch anything on some of those lines, but these are stuff that we've found useful. If you are looking at getting something, these are some things to bear in mind. So what you need something that was going to or allow you to manage your tasks and break down the tasks to a sensible level. So I've used Gantt charts for many years, etc. But you need to understand what is a sensible level. You don't want to be too granular or too general, but you will learn that as you go along. You need something where you can communicate with the team quite clearly, quickly, easily, and collaborate on files. Obviously, you need to be able to plan and schedule that resource so that people know what's expected of them today, tomorrow, next week, next month, etc. Dashboards are often very useful for that at-a-glance idea of where the progress is with any set of tasks, overall project, etc. Obviously, you want to be able to monitor your budgets, capacity, time allocations, make sure there's no conflicts, etc. And also, the slightly more downside, you need to be able to manage the risk if there's, like I said, the conflict or something like those lines. But you need to, those problems that occur, make sure you've got the time allowed for resolving those. And ultimately, can you improve the project outcomes as those problems are solved? So that's the kind of things to bear in mind. Next one. Excuse me. So this, I'm again not going to read all of it out, but just some of the more popular project management tools, and I'm sure you've used a number of them. The thing I'll say on this is that we use a combination of 3 of these, in fact. Teams is almost exclusively for our internal communications. We have chats within there, but we also have dedicated client conversations as well. ClickUp we use for managing the task time, etc. like that. That's a recent introduction, and I'll come onto that in a moment. And Google Meet we use for our internal meetings and managing our calendar, etc. like that. So there isn't one of these that does the whole thing for us. So be prepared that you might need a combination, but you will, once you assess what you need, you will have a much better idea of what you need to subscribe to.
Sounds good.
Okay, so this is a slightly old but brief shot screen grab of ClickUp. This is just one of the multiple views. I don't know how clear it is, but if you look at the top, there are multiple views that you can see, such as a Gantt chart, scheduling. There's a this is the sort of the overview. I've redacted this slightly because I'm not going to tell everyone who our clients are, etc. But you can see there, I've got the tasks, I've got people I've assigned them to, I can see their status, and that's why how they're grouped in this particular view. I've got deadline dates, etc. And then once I've got all of those deadline dates in, if I switch it to the Gantt view, that would then present it in a different way. It has a replication of the Trello board. So if you're used to that environment, then it can switch to that very easily. So it's the same old story, good stuff in, good stuff out, rubbish in, rubbish out. So if you're going to use this, use it to its fullest, and you will absolutely get the benefit from it. And the eagle-eyed amongst you in the top right-hand corner will see that there is a notifications where I cunningly hid how many notifications I had at that particular time. It is extremely useful for actually nudging you as well. So it is not a purely passive system. But like I say, we're not pitching it. It's just what we use, and we find it very, very useful.
Yeah.
So just some thoughts about how we have gone about putting ClickUp in place, and therefore we wanted to share with you. So define your need. What are you in the, why are you in the market? What are you looking for? What are the problems that you're facing, and how genuine are they? Are they something that would be solved by a project management tool, or is actually something more simple, like just a process that needs refining? Do your research. There is plenty of systems out there. As I've mentioned at the top there, collaborative working, SharePoint, that changed things hugely, as has working from home, pandemic, etc. This is now the staple for so many businesses. So do your research, find out who can you get a 2-week trial with or something like that. And as you're going through that, make a note of the pros and cons, because you won't remember it in a week's time. Choose what you need, and what you think you'll need. Plan ahead for the future, and the chances are that is not going to be the cheapest, and it's probably not going to be the most expensive either. But don't just get what you think is right for now. Think about where you want to be in, I would say, up to 5 years time. Consider your commitment to the service. How long is the contract? How flexible is it? Something to always bear in mind, especially when the financial director is involved. Similar with almost anything, like Microsoft Excel. I don't use 80% of it. And the same with the project management tools. You won't ever use it all. But what I showed you in ClickUp allows you to change those views because people's minds work differently. So if you can get that flexibility built in, great, but don't try to use it all because you'll just go crazy doing it. One of the things that we found extremely useful was to actually map our processes out in advance. Before we even started, even opened the system, it was a case of, right, who does what? And one of the useful things we found here was that, for example, requesting brand guidelines from clients was a feature for about 3 or 4 of our teams for obvious reasons. But think about it, that request only needs to go in once. So there wasn't a duplication of effort, but there was almost a duplication of output. So map those processes out. Even if you think they're quite simple, you will discover quite a lot. In terms of the project, make sure you've got an idea on the budget. Don't just keep thinking, oh, we can add that on, we can add that on. Look at who's actually working on the project and keep that under control as well. And again, the support with risk management, that applies here as well. By looking at the risks that you've got in those processes, you can actually improve that whole project outcome. So it's worth repeating there as well. Thanks, Rajal.
Yep.
Okay, so crikey, time's flown by. So some hints and tips from both of us that we've learned over time. So just picking up on what I said, use those project tools wisely. Don't overdo it. They are extremely useful, but don't let it control you. You are controlling it. Never under plan. Now, you could always keep planning down to a completely granular level, and it won't actually benefit you. But never make the assumption of, that'll be fine, that'll work itself out. We've done that before, no problem. Don't. That will leave you with problems. Break your project down into the smaller tasks that make sense. So that's the what. The task that can be assigned deadlines. There's your when, and they are clearly owned and allocated. And that's the who. The how and the where, that will come along as you go. And as for the why, if you're asking the why at this stage, it's already too late. You should be asking that at the start. Communicate and collaborate with the team to build the trust. It's not just about getting the project done. It is building that longer term trust, those working relationships. So there's 2 levels to that, 2 layers to it. Keep track of stuff. Again, the project tools can help with that, but keep an eye on your progress, where the budget is being spent, the capacity, the time. Okay, so we've said it before, it's worth saying again. Keep an eye on the risks. If something goes wrong, is it a glitch or is it something bigger? Investigate it, find out the cause, and find out if it's something that is fundamental that needs tackling, or is it something that is minor and can just be dealt with as a one-off. Are you, as the project manager, managing the project, the people on the project, or both of them? And sometimes the hardest one is actually you're responsible for the project, but you don't have the line management of the people involved. So there are other ways to encourage people to get things done. Expect to be busy. Keep on your toes. The projects projects overlapping, etc. So the work is never finished. Projects will finish, but the overall work. So expect to be busy. If you expect to be busy, then it is less daunting. And finally, if we had to put it in a nutshell, I would say, ask the questions of your colleagues, ask them of the clients, whoever the client might be, the size or whatever it might be. Listen to the answer, take it in, take it down, and then act on that information. And sometimes that act might be a small thing, it might be a tiny thing, passing a message on or whatever it might be, but it could actually be something much more fundamental. Rajal mentioned sort of people's business strategy changing, especially in times like these. So those are the 3 key points that we would have as a sort of almost every single minute of every hour of every day. Those are the three actions that we are constantly undertaking. I think that's me.
Yeah, and just to finally wrap up, I'm just in the interest of time as well. That was fantastic, Mark. Thank you for so thoroughly going through that. Just in summary, just to kind of wrap everything up, with project management, there's no hard or fast formula that applies to every single business. The project management role includes lots of different things. It requires flexibility. But when you appoint an agency, just ensure that you have the ability to mold that they have the ability to mold themselves around what your organizational needs are. So you want to make sure that you've got that structured approach, effective communication, and proactive problem solving. So ultimately, as long as you've got that support and that you can work and have a close relationship with your project management, it will help to make sure that you meet that bottom line, the investment for your marketing or whatever service it is that you are working with your project management with. Thank you. I hope that's helped. We had to rush through the final parts. I'm just conscious of time.
Brilliant, guys. Well done. Well presented. Thank you. I think what always strikes me about client account management, it's one of those roles that kind of gets underrepresented. When we start to talk as an agency, the emphasis usually goes on all the technical stuff and optimization and doing the account side. And it always surprises me when we break down this role that it's elements of project manager, you've got managing expectations, communication, there's strategist roles in there as well. And then you think you do that across 5 or 10 clients. It's a large role when you actually look into it. Thank you, guys. In the name of time, I think we'll skip questions. I know, Lisa, you've had a couple of questions as we're going through. I hope you've had some useful answers from us and from Montserrat and the people on the webinar. So we'll skip questions for now. Gurpreet, can I hand over to you to do the final bits?
Yep, sure. So thank you everybody for joining this morning. I'm just going to put up a couple of reviews. We'd really appreciate it. A Google review should pop up on your screen now. So if you can leave any review, that we'd really appreciate it. Any feedback. And thank you so much to Rajal and Mark for this morning. It's been brilliant.
No problem. It's been a pleasure. Our email addresses are on that final screen there. Should you have any questions, drop us a line. I'd be happy to help.
And I've just popped up the reviews.io one as well. So thank you very much for joining this morning.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good weekend.
Thank you so much. Yeah, have a great weekend.
Thanks all.
Thanks. Bye-bye.